can't do this. I can't go out on stage. I can't give this message. What if it sucks? What if it's terrible? What if they don't like it? What if they don't like me? And I've been thinking about this for weeks. And it doesn't go away. Every season, every scene that I play it through, it just ends bad. What if it's so bad I lose my job over this? My friends are out there. What if it's so bad that I go to work tomorrow and they just ignore me? They don't say a thing about it. They don't talk to me like I've got COVID or the plague or something. I can't do this. It'll ruin me. Everything that I've been working for, it'll ruin me. If I just sprinted outside, would anybody notice? If I told someone and I just faked being sick? What if I actually got sick on stage? Then I'd be the throw-up girl. I can't do this. I just can't do this. Welcome to the voice of anxiety. I don't know if you're all feeling it, but I'm feeling it. Wow, guys, like my legs are shaking, my palms are sweaty, my armpits, they're pretty sweaty too. My heartbeat is going very fast, and I feel like I can't get enough air in my lungs, and I wrote this out, guys, back there. I wrote it out, but it doesn't change that it's every anxious thought that I have thought about before going into a message. And so to help me bring it down a notch, because otherwise you'll hear high-pitched, fast-speaking Nancy the whole night, and you'll be like, wow, I don't know what she said. She's kind of annoying. And I'll be like, you're right. So here's some things to like help me, and maybe you. I might have brought out some like, is she coming? Is there what's going on here? We're going to just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 things. So 5 things I see. So first off, I see all of you, Tamwa. You guys look good tonight. It's good to see you. Looking warm. I know that there's a camera in front of me, and so I'm going to envision seeing my Centerville friends, my Fairfield friends, and did you guys know? Oski has joined us. Let's go. And so I know like there's more than 5 of you in the room here in case those watching are concerned about us in Ottumwa. We're doing just fine. But I'm going to count that as 4 groups. And the 5th thing I see here, right here in the front, you have a sweet blue sweatshirt. I appreciate that. That's encouraging to me. Thank you. The next thing I have then is 4 things that I can hear. I can obviously, hear my voice. There's a mic here. I can hear some pens clicking. I can hear the fan thing behind me, and I still feel like I can hear my own heart, like beating. I can't bring the mic down for you to hear it, but it's there. 3 things that I can smell. Did you know that's part of this? Smelling. Worship was great. Some of you needed a little extra deodorant, so there's one smell. Obviously, I told you I'm sweating, so I am smelly. I did put on deodorant 3 times today, guys. I've been sweating a lot. It's a lot of nerves here. And the 3rd thing I can smell is, oddly enough, like the carpet that's in here. Like I've been in here enough to know that like that carpet scent, it's here, okay? 2 things that I can feel. I can feel this podium in front of me, and I can feel this t-shirt, which, guys, this is a Wake conference from 10 years ago. You want to talk about a decade? This is a decade. It's my husband's shirt because I do fix my fashion, except now, throwback things are in. So in case you're wondering, 10 years old here. I'm very proud of this, or my husband is, and I can't throw it away because it's awesome. You should be at a Wake conference this year. So in 10 years, you have that shirt. And the last thing, one thing that I can taste, my spit. Like, it's not like I was back there eating Doritos before I got here. It's just what we have. And so that helps part of it, but if you kind of heard me through, my body is still very like, let's go. I'm ready to fight. I would run out those doors and feel real good about it, okay? I need a breathing exercise to kind of bring it down. And so I would love your guys' help with this, okay? So it is a box square, not like your show choir box square. Ready? Look at this. My show choir nerds, go this way. Yep, we got it, okay? And later tonight, there's going to be like a Just Dance competition in here. You better believe I've got some better moves than that box square. This one, though, is a breathing thing, okay? And what I would love is you can do it in the air with me, or you can trace it on your leg, not your friend's leg, not your friend's face, your leg, or in the air. What's going to happen is when I go up, we're going to breathe in together. We're going to inhale. When I go over, we're going to exhale. Down, inhale. That's the hardest one for me. Over, exhale. We ready? Ready? I need some. Centerville, Oski, Fairfield. I need some help here. Ready? Here we go. Up, in. Over, out. Down, in. Over, out. Do it again with me. Up. Over. Down. Over. One more time. Might just be for me. Up. Over. Down. Over. Thank you. I needed that. I don't know if you needed that, but I needed that to the very least to know that I'm not alone up here. I'm not alone in this room, because one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves about anxiety is that we are alone. And so I'm coming into this topic knowing that this is overwhelming, that this is confusing, that this is something that we've used this word sometimes right and sometimes we don't know. And so I just want to come into this really open with you, because I've seen it on the news, I'm on social media, I'm reading it in books, I've read your prayer requests, and we have to address it, and we have to figure out what is going on with this. And so one of the things that, as I've been practicing this, is I think of it like fractions. Some of you know I was a math teacher in a past life. Fractions are okay with me, but they might be terrible for you. And so you go into math class, and you're like, great, fractions. I expect it's math class. And so this is like me studying anxiety. I understand I have a problem, like I'm working through it, and so I'm reading books about it. But then you're back in school, you have fractions math class. You go to science class, and they throw a fraction at you. That was rude. I did not need that here in science class. I don't like your fractions in math, and I don't like them here. And so here's what's happened with me with anxiety, of where places I've chosen into learning about it, and places where it's Christmas Day, and I've gone to the theater with my husband and my 3 kids, and we're going to watch Migration, an adorable movie about ducks. Great. And so what happens, I'm sitting there in the theater, I've stolen my daughter's popcorn because I love popcorn, and a $5 kitty box with the icy is the best deal you can get. So I'm eating her popcorn, and up on the screen comes an ad for Inside Out 2. And do you guys know who the new emotion is? Yell it out, who's the new emotion? Anxiety! And I was like, it's Christmas! I don't need to be thinking about being anxious about this. As a side note, I loved Inside Out 1. I saw it in theaters, and I'm pretty certain the 6-year-old behind me thought I was crazy because I laughed really loud. I cried at a part of it, and I just love Riley. I can't wait for Inside Out 2. But again, I wasn't prepared to be anxious on Christmas. Other parts of our Christmas break that you may have gone into, which now felt like a winter break, a true winter break because of all of our snow days. But I spent part of my Christmas break in a hospital for multiple days, over multiple hours, for a family member. And you're spent in there saying, what does this all mean? Are they going to get better? What if they don't get better? What does that mean? And I have these spots of we've had the new year, right? And it's a fresh start, and we're excited about it, and your New Year resolutions, or get a new word, but there's this undertone that goes, yeah, but I didn't stand up to it last year. All these places where if I'm making a resolution or word, it means that I fell flat last year. And if I fell flat last year, what if I fall flat this year? And so there's just a current, I feel, of anxiety that runs through. And so what I want us to think through again, as we're in this of, I had you do some exercise with me so I don't feel alone. I need you to know that you are not alone in your anxiety either. And here's why I know this. You all, cameras included, have a brain. Isn't that amazing? And in your brain, I love how God has just made this brain up here so fascinating. There are 2 parts I want to clue you in on. One of them, this is one of those words that has way too many consonants and not enough vowels. I did have to ask Google how to say it, because when I read it in books, it was Amy Gala, Amachima, and then I just wouldn't read it in my head. I was like, I'm tired of this word. It is amygdala. Will you say that with me? Amygdala. One more time, it's fun. Amygdala. That's the word you're just going to throw at the lunch table tomorrow. Like, look, I'm a brilliant genius, okay? So you have this amygdala, and what it does is it causes our freeze or fight moment when you get scared, or because it's been, icy, you're walking and you hit the ice, your body reacted to that. That's your amygdala coming in of like, no, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to fix you. And so then you get that rush that's like, whoo, I'm alive now, Like this is the same type of item that, it gets our freeze, fight, run mentality that we're doing. You also have this fun thing called the cortex. It's much easier said. It is the executive functioning part of your brain, which means it controls all of your thoughts. So everything that I read at the beginning, my thoughts, that's going to be controlled by my cortex. And I say all this because these two are connected, and these three words that I want us to be able to distinguish between, because some of us use anxiety like it's a slang word, like bussin' and slays. And some of us don't use anxiety when it's actually what you're feeling. And so on your fill-in notes, I want us to start with this idea of these three sections. There's fear, there's worry, and there's anxiety. I will preface that there's another part over here that is clinical anxiety, and I don't want to shy away from that. I also have to say that I am not a counselor and I'm able to talk to the depth of that, but do not fear or feel that you are anything less than if you continue this spectrum to clinical anxiety. And if at the end of this message you're like, there's more to me, please talk to a tribe leader, a parent, a counselor. Just keep that in mind. We're going to start with this idea of fear, though. And this is we fear something. I, personally, fear these things. Look at this snake. Not like stuffed ones. I'm okay. I'm strong. I'm a strong, independent woman. Okay? I fear snakes, though. Okay? My amygdala reacts anytime that I see a snake of freeze or fight or usually scream. I was at the lake one time, and we were on a giant like lily pad thing, and there's a storm blowing in. And you're like, wow, look at the storm. That's really cool. And it blows the snake onto a lily pad that is this big. I wish I was exaggerating for you. It was tiny. And I screamed my bloody head off. Sorry, everyone on the other side. I was terrified. My in-laws thought like one of my kids fell in the water and was drowning. My husband knows better. He's laughing at me in the background. And I am ready to fight that tiny snake off my lily pad. I'm going to sprint for my life. Another time I was at the lake, I should learn to not go to the lake. My middle child was coming up the stairs. And I look over on some rocks. I was like, that's an interesting place for a hose. That's not a hose. This one was huge, guys. It looked like a hose, okay? It wasn't the little tiny guy. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm freezing, right? I can't scream. My child is there. I scream, I'm going to scare him. And so you're just like, I'm ready for that snake, though. If he takes 1 inch towards my son, like we're going to town, Snakey, okay? And so I'm ready for it. This is the worst one or maybe the best one because I hate these things. This past summer, went to the Pioneer Ridge, and they have a museum out there set up for kids. And I've been to this museum multiple times, okay? And there's this box where there is a stuffed snake, very similar to this one, inside the box. And my oldest son, who knows I'm terrified of snakes, like, Mom, come open the box. I was like, joke's on you, I know. But I keep it in because, you got to pretend for your 6-year-old. You got to live it up. And I lift that box up, and lo and behold, those stinkers at the museum rigged it to jump at me. So this flying snake, stuffed still, I scream once again in the middle of a children's museum. I am pitiful, friends, when it comes to snakes. I don't trust them. They don't have legs. I can't guess where they're going. I don't like them. Here's what I know about snakes, though, is that I fear snakes when I'm in the space where there are snakes. I know that I'm afraid of snakes when I'm near the lake. I'm afraid of snakes when I'm at a prairie or I'm trying to hike. I'm not afraid of snakes in this auditorium. Right, snakes should not be here. I've also told the high school boy who I know has snakes that he cannot bring it in this auditorium. This is my safe space. Okay, and so what's interesting about fear is it causes a lot of emotion, but if I'm not in that space where I'm going to see a snake, I'm not afraid of them. If you are afraid of heights, don't go on a roller coaster, right? Like we know those two are connected. If you're afraid of small or cramped places, you know that closets will make you nervous, but it's not gonna like sneak up and grab you in a closet. Which brings us then to worry as we worry about something. I worried about my talk. I worried about grades. I worried about making the team. You could worry about a history test or a math test. You could worry about a game. And a lot of this with worry usually lasts a little bit longer, but it still has that fear aspect that when it ends, that worry kind of dissipates. It kind of goes away. And so one thing I've noticed for myself is when I've moved from worrying into this now new idea of anxiety is that my sleep gets messed up. I am a 30-something woman, and every time I move to anxiety, I have a dream that I now have to go back to college, still as this, and play soccer and earn my spot back. It's terrifying. I might look fast and ready to take on a fight. Maybe I am, I don't know, we don't know my fight or flight thing, but I know that my sleep has gotten messed up and it moves me into anxiety. And what anxiety is it now starts taking a fear or a worry and it never leaves. It keeps getting stuck. And so it could be one of the things that you replay it over and over and over, or it just catches you off guard. You're at the grocery store, you're looking at an orange. What a beautiful orange. Do you remember what you said yesterday to your friends? Do you think they're going to hate you for that? I don't think they'll be your friends tomorrow. You're like, I was looking at an orange. No thanks, I don't need you. And so what I've found so interesting about anxiety is one of the biggest things it does is it places this same fear that I have a snake, fear that I'm having to fight something that's actually not in front of me. It's as fake as this stuffed one is. It's saying that whatever I'm worried about, which usually is in the future, which is another fascinating thing about anxiety, you may be worried about what you said today, but it's all about what happens then. Because I said this, how are my friends going to think of me tomorrow? Because I did this, how is that going to affect me in school next year? Because this happened, how is it going to affect college? How's it going to affect my job? And anxiety takes us from this moment and hijacks us over there where we're ready to fight something that is uncertain and unknown. And it's just like, it's amazing for me to think that the same reaction I have to snakes in my body is the same reaction I have to all of my anxieties, all of my worries, and all of my fears. And so we have to figure out, what are we going to do with that? Because this starts to cause a lot of untruths in me about who I am and what I can do. And when I'm faced with untruths, I have to go to the place of all truth. I have to go to God. I have to go to my Bible. I have to go to prayer. Like, this is what I have to do. Because this Bible, God's word, is chocked full of people who are anxious. Right? Let's start at the beginning. Adam and Eve. They're cast out of the garden. God, because we did that in the garden, what does my life look like now? How am I supposed to live? Because of what happened there, now what? We look at Moses, who is supposed to lead his people, terrified to talk to Pharaoh, terrified to talk to his own people. Are they going to listen to me? Are they going to want to follow me? We look at David and his Psalms, and they're full of his enemies coming at him. And why is my soul downcast? It is chock full. You get to the Gospels, and Jesus arrives, and I find this amazing that it feels like every miracle that Jesus does came from an anxious person. They may have been anxious about, will I ever see again? What if I never walk again? What if my dad does die? What if my son dies? What if these thoughts that keep hijacking me never go away? And Jesus meets all of them, and in those miracles, he heals them. And I want us to take a moment then to say, like, what's a story that we can look at to see, like, how does Jesus respond to people who are anxious? How do the anxious people respond? And so we've got this idea of, like, how am I then supposed to respond to my anxiety? And I want us to look then at a story from Mark 5 about two different people. And this is how it reads. Then a leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him. My little daughter is dying. He said, please come and lay your hands on her. Heal her so she can live. So we have Jairus. And this is what I imagine for Jairus. We're going to take this real slow. Of like, you've seen the pictures of, like, I don't know, 0 BC or 0 AD. Of like, they're in cloaks. So I imagine Jairus like, Jesus is in town. I need to tell him that my daughter's sick. And he like picks up his cloak. I don't know if he runs or if he does the awkward, like, fast walk of like, I need to get to Jesus. Because he has to tell him that his daughter is sick. And so I love that this is the first thing that he does, is that he seeks Jesus. If I could only get to Jesus, maybe my daughter would be better. If I could only get there. And what's also so fascinating about this is that he comes to Jesus, I'm sure, with a lot of fears. And anxiety is also this idea of, what do you fear losing? What do you value that you're afraid is going to get lost? Jairus takes a moment here and tells Jesus right away, I fear losing my daughter. And that's the second thing that he does then. He names it. I do wonder, though, are there any other unspoken anxieties? Like, Jesus, if my daughter dies, how am I supposed to help my wife? If my daughter dies, what am I supposed to do at my job? If my daughter dies, how do I tell my friends? Again, this anxiety is just hijacking him to the future of all these what ifs. And so if we look into this, like, what happens next? But again, back to Jairus, like, if there's these places that he names or he doesn't name, like, isn't this usually where we stop? We don't actually name it. We say, Jesus, I need you. And he's like, what's up? And you're like, just kidding. I got too scared. Or just kidding, I'd rather distract myself. I'd rather delay the feeling. I would rather dull the feeling. I would rather pick up my phone and head over to TikTok or Instagram and scroll to find a laugh. I'd rather scroll to find somebody where I could be transported. I'd rather go to the party, take too many drinks because I'm tired of this feeling. I'm tired like I need to fight something and it's not here. I need to take a hit. I need to vape because these feelings, I don't know how to talk to the people around me, so I need to do something. I need to do something with my hands because I have too many feelings. I have too many movements. When really, we have to come to Jesus with this. We have to name it to him. And I remember in high school after a hard breakup, it was one of those where this guy and I, we were best friends all throughout high school. So you get to your senior year and you think, maybe we should date. So we date and we get to the end of the senior year and he breaks up with me. And I remember leaving my car. It was a 1999 Mercury Sable. I was not in high school in 1999. I want you to know that. But if you want to talk about a car that is old and is decades old, 1999 Mercury Sable. It was an old lady white car. And I closed that door, I left, and I remember my driveway at the time had an incline, and I just fell. I fell on my driveway, and I wept to Jesus of these ideas of what if I wasn't good enough? What if I wasn't a good enough friend? What if I wasn't a good enough girlfriend? What if I will never be a good enough friend? What if I will never be a good enough girlfriend? What if I am alone? And I had to bring that to Jesus, and it is a core memory of me just knowing that this is the spot where Jesus put his presence on me to say, I hear you. And it is a core memory not because of the heartache, but because Jesus met me there, and I needed that. And so I'm wondering then here in our story, how is Jesus going to continue to meet Jairus? Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. Jesus heard Jairus' plea, and he went with him. He walked with him, basically like, let's go. Let's go to your house. Let's see your daughter. And while they're walking, a woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years, she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, and so she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his robe. For she had thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. And so in comes another person that their first thing to do is to seek Jesus. She had to find him because she's got this physical problem where she's bleeding. And so her thoughts are, what if I never get better? What if I can't find the doctor I'm supposed to be with? Because her disease dealt with blood, she couldn't be around people. She couldn't hold down a job very well. Nobody wanted to be her friend because she's bleeding. And so you're just like, Jesus, why do I have to continue to not have friends? Does anybody like me? Will anybody care for me? I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired of being alone. And so she comes to Jesus the exact same way, and she names what's going on here. She continues to go here that says immediately, so after she touched the robe, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she'd been healed of her terrible condition. Jesus realized at once that the healing power had gone out from him, so he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my robe? His disciples said to him, look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, who touched me? But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. Again, she names it. Jesus, it was me. I touched your robe because I was tired of feeling alone. I touched your robe because I needed healing. I did it, Jesus, because I needed something more than what I had. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace, your suffering is over. And so probably what caused her the most anxiety, her health, had been healed. I don't think, though, that's where all of her anxiety ended. But we'll get back to this because do you remember who we started the story out with? Somebody yelled his name. What was his name? Jairus. Jairus. Here's what I think is so fascinating. What do you think Jairus is doing at this time? This is what I would be doing if I was Jairus. Right? His daughter is on the verge of death, and Jesus has stopped. He has stopped moving. He has stopped to talk to this woman, and I feel like that's another way that anxiety robs us. It won't even let us see a miracle around us Because you're so like, but Jesus, I need a healing too. I am so anxious too. And so what happens? We pick back up with Jairus. While he was still speaking to her, so Jesus is still speaking to the woman, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now. And I just envision Jairus' world comes crashing down. Right? Is this a fight or a freeze moment? Does he yell at the messengers? Does he glare at Jesus? Does he fall to his knees? What happens here is Jairus, in the midst of his anxiety, everything that he did fear has now happened. But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just have faith. And I really want to know, did Jairus take it? Was he washed over with peace? Or did he counter Jesus and say, don't be afraid? What do you mean, don't be afraid? My daughter died. What am I supposed to do with my wife? What am I supposed to do with my job? What am I supposed to do tomorrow? What do you mean, don't be afraid? Have faith in who? Have faith in what? Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John. He stops the crowd, which makes me think that they started moving. Right? He picked up, he went with Jairus. And here's another interesting thing about this. Jesus only lets Peter, James, and John, Jesus' friends, get to go with. Where are Jairus' friends? Where are they? And so this next point then that I have for you is, one, I'd love to think that those of us in the room are seeking to be Jesus' friends. And so in our anxiety, we have got to take community. We have to take people with us. We have to quit believing the lie that we're alone in this. We have to have this idea of who can I text? Who can I tell that I didn't sleep through the night again? Who do I tell that I faked being sick because I didn't want to go to practice again and suck? Who do I tell that I don't know if my parents are going to get a divorce or not? Who do I tell that I am sick and I don't know what to do about it? Who am I going to tell? You have to take community. And I want you in your own space to commit to coming back to Tribes next week, whether that's Monday or Wednesday, because the people in this room, I want to think that you are Jesus' friend. And if we're going to the place of highest anxiety, we need Jesus' friends in here. And you need community. You need a place to be safe in, where you can express, this is what I need from us, and this is what I need from Jesus. And so when they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion and weeping and wailing. He went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep. And the crowds laughed at him. But he made them all leave, and he took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. The crowd laughed at him. And I'm just curious of who's in your crowd. Are they laughing? Are they the right people? Are you doing the wrong things because of the crowd? Are you throwing a pity party because of the crowd? Are you drinking because of the crowd? Are you vaping because of the crowd? Jesus stopped them, and for some of you, that needs to be your prayer tonight, that Jesus comes in and stops that. The other part is, again, only 6 people got to go into the place of most anxiety, what he feared losing the most. 6 people went into that. Jesus, 3 of Jesus' friends, and Jairus' wife, and Jairus. Holding her hand, the little girl, he said to her, Talitha cum, which means little girl, get up. And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and walked around. They were overwhelmed and totally amazed. I really can't say that without feeling I'm in the 70s. Totally amazed, okay? They did the last thing that we have to do when we know that anxiety is rising in our life. They give praise. Because once again, this idea of anxiety shoots us to the future. And so we can't be thankful right now in the present and try to live in the future where our anxious thoughts are. We can't do both. And so a reason that I had us go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at the beginning with me was to bring me back here to the present. I needed to breathe with you, do the exercise, so that I knew my body was here in the presence. And when we're here in the presence, we can give a lot of praise. For example, if you do sleep through the night, And you wake up the next morning refreshed, like text a friend, give God a little like high five in the morning, like, yeah, we did it. If you said no to the crowd for drinking, for vaping, for doing something that you're like, I don't know about that, put on a worship song. If you prayed before you went and did a little doom scroll, you all know, we've been there. Like, keep praying. Write it down. Jesus keeps bringing me through these anxieties because if we come back to this, I know that Jesus kept meeting people in anxious thoughts. I know that he kept showing up for them. And if I were to think about Jairus and the woman, I don't think that their anxiety went away forever. Because here's the thing for Jairus. I think at some point, he did have to face death again. Whether that was his death, his wife's death. I think for the woman who got healed of her condition, even though she was healed, her physical anxiety, she still had to walk back into every social circle, every job, and earn essentially her way back. Would anyone still be her friend? Could she still hold down a job? And what I love about this chapter in Mark 5 is like they had this moment. Like I had the moment on my driveway where I knew God was with me because I sought him and I named it. And I've given him praise afterward. And so what I'm going to ask for you tonight then is, can we also then have a Mark 5 moment? When you walked into the room, or I handed it out to you because I like index cards, you got an index card. Campuses, you all got an index card. And I want you to take that out. Hold it. If you drew on it, that's fine. It's two-sided. If you like really drew on it, maybe your friend next to you didn't, you like give him a little elbow, tear it in half, take your index card. And I want us to hopefully have a chance to just like walk through this process, that we respond to our anxiety, that we quit trying to just shove it down. I keep having this vision of like we're standing on the sea trying to hold the waves back. Like, no, like anxiety, don't find me, don't wash over me, don't take me. And I just want us to take a moment to be like, wash over me and watch Jesus take care of it. And so on your index card, this is the place for you to take a moment and name it. Name the anxiety that you are facing. Name it, whether it's 1 or whether it's 10. It's your parents. It's their marriage. It's a sickness. It's cancer. It's grades. It's a friend group. I want you to take a moment and to name it. And after we name it here, we're going to take some time to place it on the cross as a symbol of placing that onto Jesus, to make a spot for it. And after that, there will be leaders on the side to do that thing, to take community with you, to pray with you, to tell you you're not alone. You've got them and you've got Jesus. And my guess is you got some of Jesus's friends in here. And the last thing we will do is have a chance for you just to praise, to call Jesus into this moment, to thank him for it, and each of that. I am going to pray. You are more than welcome, though, to keep your eyes open, looking at your index card, writing down what you need to, and then we'll sing together. So, dear God, I love you. I love that you walked with anxious people, that you continue to walk with me in all of my anxieties, and I pray for each of the students that is here, that is listening, that they just be open with you, that the walls they've placed around their emotions can be torn down because you, God, are loving and graceful and merciful, that you are enough to take that load. I pray for the prayers tonight. I pray for your healing of all anxieties that ever may come. And I pray that this moment becomes yours, Jesus. That in the end, this is a night from you and is blessed. Jesus, in your name, amen.